Welcome into another edition of Valpo Sports Night. I'm Drew Taylor. To my right is Mike Targonski, WVUR General Manager, and Andrew Stem. He's a WVUR sports broadcaster. Guys, first question today. Over or under 5 conference wins for the Valpo women's basketball team when it's all said and done?
Gonna unfortunately have to go under. The ladies have struggled this year, unfortunately, mostly through no fault of their own. At one point, I was at the Ball State game. They finished with 5 players on the floor. Shakira Scott tore her ACL. Mallory Ladd is transferred. Yeva Jansone hasn't been able to quite get in and become as important a member of the team, I think, as Coach Freeman wanted to, because she sat out those first 11 games, and they've just been ravished by injuries. They're basically playing 6 players at a time, and you've seen it where they can be really good and be really competitive for about 30 minutes. And then it's in those last 10 minutes, especially against really deep teams, like Youngstown State ran 10, and all of a sudden, in the last 10 minutes, when they're continually subbing players in and out, and the Crusaders can't, that they just kind of get lost. They were tied at 40 against Loyola with about 16 minutes to go, and Loyola ended up outscoring like 86-16 over the rest of the way. They just keep running out of gas. They had a real good win at home against Butler, and they got a Milwaukee team coming in soon. Milwaukee's not very good. They can probably get the sweep at Butler, but I think this shorthanded team just right now, if they get some players back and people start to get healthy, then maybe you can start seeing them trending and heading across that number 5. But I think right now, is the way things are, under is probably the way to go.
I'll give them the fact that they've played very well shorthanded. They've stayed out of foul trouble. They've really leaned on Ashley Varner coming back for her 5th year, and if they didn't have Ashley, I don't know where they would find any scoring.
Yeah, she's been
that's
spectacular.
The big thing. And Keith Freeman really stresses defense, and they've done a great job defensively. But I don't think they're going to get to 5 conference wins. I think they're going to struggle the rest of the way here in the second half. You mentioned Milwaukee, maybe Butler, but they have Green Bay coming up soon, which I'm sure is just going to put a damper in any hopes they might be able to pick up. And I don't really know, like you said, if injuries come back. I mean, Jansone wasn't able to play since August because she had to miss the 11 games, and then it was Christmas break, so she didn't get to play 5-on-5 till it was actual game action. So just imagine how far back she is in terms of playing. And I mean,
Betsy Adams, she's been out of the lineup, in and out. I mean, she's your MVP of last year.
Yeah.
To have those 13, 14 points get washed off,
Yeah, and these girls are going to have, playing 30, 40 minutes a game, almost a full game, and I don't know how you could, big testament to them just because it's been such a abysmal year in terms of
Laura Richards hardly ever comes out.
Right.
Tabitha Gerardo hardly ever comes out. Varner and Lang will be out, and they'll basically sub for a few minutes. I mean, they're basically rolling 6. Everybody's playing at least 30 minutes. You mentioned it. It's just, and that starts to wear down on you. And, at some point, when they play Butler, and that'll be their only game of that week again with the travel partners, that will be a good test because it was the same way before when they played Butler. They didn't play a game on Thursday. They had a full week to get ready. They could rest the legs a little bit more, and they came out and really played inspired. But when you get, especially on the second half of those back 2 games in 3 days, when you're playing 35 minutes a game, just the legs aren't there anymore.
I agree with you. If we were at full strength, I think 5 conference wins is an easy
pretty attainable.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
But with the way things stand right now, I agree with you guys. I don't think they're going to make it to over 5 wins. But on that note, let's switch gears to the men's basketball team. Are you surprised at the success of the team, considering they lost 3 of their 4 leading scorers from last year?
In terms of how they've been scoring points, yes. In terms of winning games, close games, no. Okay. They've really improved defensively the last couple of years. Yes. And that's one thing they've really stressed in practice. And, I mean, nobody expected to replace Corey Johnson's point production and Kevin Van Vikes leading the Horizon League in scoring.
Right.
I mean, you knew what you were going to get from Ryan Brokoff. A huge bonus in Ben Boggs coming back. I mean, he's scoring 4.5 a game, but he's a big presence in there. He adds you a little bit more height on the wing position and get the ball inside and stuff like that. So I would say, scoring, how they've been able to replace that, yeah. Defensively, winning close games, being successful, no, I don't think so. I think it's a product of a great coaching pedigree they have. Yeah. The staff has just really put an emphasis on defense and practice, and that team hustles better than any team in the Horizon League. I mean, watching those guys go, and Eric Buggs, I mean, you saw 2 years ago when he wasn't in the lineup, they struggled, Yeah. They had Brandon McPherson and Brandon Wood. Those guys, they could run the floor, but Buggs' quickness, and he's got great vision, and his passes, he get to the basket himself, is a big plus for them, and I think, he's been a big product of their success offensively.
And I love the accountability that Bryce Drew has implemented. I mean, if you don't play defense, you're not going to play. I don't care if you can score 15 a game.
For sure.
If you're not going to give it all on the defensive half of the court, then sit on the bench.
Yeah. You mentioned it, and Mike touched on it a little bit. It's been a different score, third score, seemingly every game. You know what you're going to get from Van Vyk now that he's healthy and able to give you 25 minutes a game, leading the league in scoring, up there near the top in rebound. You know what you're going to get from Brokoff, second in scoring, leading the league in rebounding, or at least they were as of last week before the games in Chicago. But those numbers are up near the top. But then you look at it, and you need everybody else to kind of be stepping up. One day it's Jay Harris. He scored 24, I think, against Milwaukee or against Green Bay.
Yep.
Matt Kenny one night. You get guys like that. Will Bogan against Detroit. Ben Boggs against Milwaukee, I think it was. And they just kind of all come up and step up at different times and kind of say, all right, I'm going to be the guy to do it today. And that's good. But I think as the second half of the league goes on, they're going to need to establish a third scorer, somebody that they can count on to get 10 to 12 points a game, and then let those other guys step up, and then you'll really start to see them give problems. Because right now it seems like if you can take away Ryan, you can take away Kevin, the offense will continue to function, but you don't know how well they're going to score. Whereas if you can establish a third guy and say, well, you cover these two guys, and he's going to be open, and like Jay Harris. If Jay Harris starts pouring in 15 points a game, then you're going to see guys start to sag off of Kevin and Ryan a little bit more and make it easier for them to score.
You mentioned Ryan Brokoff and Kevin Van Vyk. As a Crusader, they're having their best season yet. Are they the two best players in the Horizon League? If not, who is?
You mean in terms of player? They've got to be the two favorites right now for Player of the Year, I guess, and that's the direction you're going. I think as long as the team continues to win and finish first, second, maybe third, if they have no more than say if they go 14-4 in the conference, if they can do that, one of those two guys will probably win Player of the Year. The unfortunate nature of things is that more often than not, it's not always the best player in the league who wins Player of the Year. It's the best player on the best team. Yep. So there are a couple of guys at Cleveland State, Trey Harmon and Jeremy Montgomery. Montgomery leads the Horizon League in threes, and Harmon just kind of does a lot of small things. He only scores about 10 points. He leads the league in steals. So I could see it being one of those two guys. Maybe if Milwaukee gets hot, Tony Meyer from Milwaukee. But I think in terms of the best overall players in the conference, I think the two guys that you're talking about right here on campus they're it.
I think so as well. I was going to make a case for Montgomery like you had, but I think that you look at the top team, and that just because this team or this league, now that we're about the halfway point, and you can see the UICs, Loyolas are out of it. But when the season started, this league was 10 deep. You go on the road. You're not a guaranteed win anywhere in the Horizon League anymore.
Sure. Well, and look at what Youngstown's done. Right. Nobody thought Youngstown was going to be any good, and they're 6-3 and still a legitimate shot to win the conference.
And they almost they gave the favor to Butler and said they're going to run with it. Valpo lost all the scoring; they're down. Right. Youngstown State is always
on paper it didn't look good.
Right, but you start the year and you go into conference play and you don't know what's going to be on the floor. Loyola might show up and drop a 20-point victory on them like they did at Valpo at home last year.
Yep.
So it's like you said, the guy that's on the top team. And, if Valpo were to end up, those are two really good choices. And I honestly think right now I'd make more of a poll for Van Vyk than I would Brokoff. Okay. But I think that you're looking at two of the top, at least five in the league if you're going to make a first team right now.
Yeah, they will definitely both be on the first team.
Yeah, it'd be tough to say who is better, but I like Ryan Brokoff's unselfishness this year. I think he's taken on a new role as a passer. I mean, Eric Buggs will bring that defense intensity, and he'll push the ball up the floor. But sometimes he's stuck at 1 or 2 assists a game. That's when Brokoff has stepped up this year and gotten 3 or 4 assists a game. And really, instead of forcing up, a 15-footer fadeaway, he's been dishing it down to Van Vyk for an easy layup or an opportunity.
It's good to have that guy who can fit sort of that point forward role, who can bring up the ball and continue, but create matchup problems. Because if he brings, a guy like Tim Kamchek from Cleveland State, who's like 6'7". You bring that guy out of the post, and you're either going to shoot a three over him or you're going to get right around him and get to the basket. And Brokoff did that continuously. So he provides a lot of matchup problems, and what he does is he makes the offense go.
On that note, we're going to take a quick timeout, but on the other side of the break, we'll discuss the MLB offseason as well as Super Bowl 46. You're watching Valpo Sports Night. Stay tuned. Welcome back into Valpo Sports Night. Again, Mike Targonski, General Manager, WVUR, and Andrew Stem, WVUR Sports Broadcaster. Guys, now for some national topics. What has been the best MLB offseason move thus far that will impact next season the most?
I think the impact on next season the most will be the NL Central losing Prince Fielder and Albert Pujols. And I know as a Milwaukee fan, you don't like it. As a Cub fan, it is phenomenal. I think losing those two big power bats are very tough to replace, especially a St. Louis team coming off a World Series losing La Russa and Pujols. Milwaukee, you don't know what's going to happen with Ryan Braun if he's going to miss the first 50, which I bet he will. And losing Fielder, Aramis Ramirez is not going to make up for that production.
Right.
And, he's not going to run out a ground ball like Prince Fielder would or anything like that. So I think that really opens up the division, Are the Reds poised to make a deep run in the NL Central? What about the Pirates? Can they compete now in the top 2 or 3 of that division? And with that extra wild card spot, could those 2 spots come out of the NL Central just because of how tight it's going to be and, how much it's going to take or how little it's going to take to win that division and stuff. Plus, you never know what's going to happen in the NL Central. There's always that surprise in every division too. But losing those 2 big power bats, Joey Votto's the face of the NL Central right now in terms of production from a power spot.
Yeah, I agree with you. Don't sleep on the Reds. They're a couple good pitchers away from being back where they were a couple years ago.
Well, and they've been improving their pitching staff. I think Matt Latos is a really big addition, and Sean Marshall's one of the best lefty relief pitchers in baseball, and they just picked him up too. So
I think they are going to miss Francisco Cordero, though.
Oh yeah,
I do think so.
They're going to need somebody to come in from the bullpen to step up and kind of shut the door like Cordero did. But yeah, Latos and Marshall, big upgrades.
What's your biggest offseason move?
The most surprising for me was Fielder signing with Detroit, which just happened in terms of Detroit coming up and seemingly coming from out of nowhere to kind of make that. Victor Martinez went down. They needed another big bat to kind of replace that, and 9 years, $214 million was just really kind of surprising. In terms of the biggest that's going to have the most impact, I really do think it's going to be Pujols to the Angels, because everybody had basically written off the AL West as Texas's division for now. And they made a good move getting in Yu Darvish, but you think, he was real good in Japan. You don't know how good he's going to be here in the U.S. Exactly. Hideo Nomo had a couple of good years and threw a no-hitter, but you never know what you're going to get because the offense is so different here in the U.S. than it is in Japan. But in terms of now, all of a sudden, the buzz has been about the AL West being both the Angels and the Rangers, whereas right after the World Series, it was, okay, Texas is going to roll through the West again. They're going to win their 3rd straight crown. Can they win the World Series this time? And now, all of a sudden, with Pujols being in Anaheim and Jared Weaver and Irvin Santana and the pitching staff that they're going to roll out, and C.J. Wilson in Texas, the battles that those guys are going to have. The Rangers and Angels, I think, are going to be on Sunday Night Baseball 4 times. They rolled out the early part of the schedule, the end of the schedule. So you get to spread out a little bit. People are going to know more about the AL West, but it made it a legitimate division race, whereas before it was simply going to be another coronation for the Rangers.
C.J. Wilson left Texas.
Oh, you're right, he did. I'm sorry.
So that's a big,
that was another one. I'm glad you're keeping up on these things.
Big improvement. They had to replace him with Yu Darvish in Texas because otherwise they lose the number 1 pitcher. So now the big scope of things is, who's going to be the one of the 2 heavyweights. Seattle's not going to do anything. They're Oakland. Moneyball has run out of
now in Seattle got rid of Pineda. Other than Felix Hernandez, the one really blue chip guy they had, they traded away to the Yankees.
Be interesting.
Yeah, it will be.
I will say that the Tigers move for Fielder makes sense now. Couple years, I don't know what's going to happen.
It will be interesting to see what that lineup looks like in a couple of years.
I'm very surprised that they went after him, and now they might even have to. Some say they might have to dump Victor Martinez. He's out for this entire year, but he's another left-handed bat that's very pricey. They need to, if they want to lock up their young guys, because they have a great young core.
Yeah.
If they want to lock up their young guys, something's got to give.
They talked yesterday, I think, or a couple of days ago, about what was going to happen, and basically the consensus is that they're going to try and make Miguel Cabrera lose some weight and move him back to third base. And he played third base in 06 and 07 for the Marlins. He played, I think, 14 games at third base for Detroit in 2008 and committed 5 errors or something like that. So it will be a work in progress, and it will be an offensive move, and hoping that with the pitching staff that they have, they're not going to be a lot of ground balls hit to third base, because it's definitely going to be a defensive downgrade going from Brandon Ish to Miguel Cabrera.
All right, guys, now switching to the NFL. Super Bowl Sunday is vastly approaching, as you all know. I have to ask, who do you have in Super Bowl 46?
New York Giants, I think. Just defensively, they're playing real well. Eli Manning, I mean, he gets no credit. I mean, he's the one that had the best fourth quarter all year. If anyone was paying attention, he had, I won't say his name, but you know what I'm talking about. Eli Manning has been one of the, I think he is an elite quarterback. I think he's in the upper echelon. There's a lot of debate about that. but I mean, he consistently gets this team to where they need to go. Tom Coughlin has been on the hot seat since he took that Giants
it's
job.
been hot,
He's
yeah.
in the Super Bowl twice in the last handful of years. That front four for the Giants, I think they're gonna put a lot of pressure on Tom Brady, just like they did a couple years ago. That secondary for New England is depleted.
You're right.
And I think Eli Manning could just push the ball down the field. I think the Giants are going to come away, and I don't think it's going to be a last-second field goal thing. I think it might be or last drive, whatever the Tyree thing. But I think the Giants are going to take it. I really do.
Okay.
See, I'm going to take the reverse track. I'm going to
Okay.
take New England, and I think 4 years ago there was the big push to go 19-0, and I think that really got to New England. You mentioned the secondary, but I think that Bill Belichick, given 2 weeks to prepare, given that they've already played once, so they got game tape to go over, and yes, the Giants won that game on a last-second touchdown drive by Eli, no less. I think just the way that Brady has played, and he has looked spectacular in the playoffs, and everything else, you talked about the secondary, and I do absolutely think you're right. The Giants will be able to throw the ball. The thing is, however, can Bradshaw and Brandon Jacobs run the ball enough to make it worthwhile? Because if you're Belichick, you put 3 on the line, you put 8 back, and you say, all right, now go ahead and beat us, Eli. And maybe you can. Maybe there's a very real possibility that he can. But I just think that with Belichick and his 3 Super Bowl rings, having a guy like Brady, who's now tied with Elway for most Super Bowl appearances, I think you just, even though the Giants won the regular season matchup, they won Super Bowl 42, there's just something about Belichick and Brady together that makes me think New England's going to pull it out.
Real quick, if you had to choose between quarterbacks, Eli Manning or Tom Brady right now, going into this game.
One game.
We're not talking about history.
One game or the fourth quarter?
One game. One game. You have Tom Brady or Eli Manning.
Tom Brady.
I'd take Brady for one game. If it's the fourth quarter, probably the way he's been the last couple years, I'd take Eli.
Because I know there's been a lot of people saying they would take Eli right now, but either way, that is still up for debate.
I think it's who you surround yourself with, and obviously. But if you look at the game, I have to take Tom Brady.
We're going to take one final timeout, but when we come back, we'll talk about the NBA as well as Peyton Manning. You're watching Valpo Sports Night. Stay tuned.
I'm Brandon Spinner, and I'm on VUTV.
I'm Lisa Meadows, and I'm on VUTV.
We're Women's Ultimate Frisbee, and we're on VUTV.
I'm Tristan Leonard, and I'm on VUTV.
We're Men's Ultimate Frisbee, and we're on VUTV.
Hi, my name is Nicole Graham. I'm an admission counselor here at Valpo, and I'm on VUTV.
We're Air Force ROTC, and we're on VUTV.
We're Mock Trial, and we're on VUTV.
Lollipop, lollipop, oh la.
We say what we want Thursday nights at 7 p.m. only on VUTV.
I'm Matthew Barnard, and I'm on VUTV.
I'm Vince Liuto, and I'm on VUTV.
I'm Becky Venema, and I'm on VUTV.
Hi, I'm Professor Powell.
And I'm Lauren Whitney Gotbreath.
And you're on VUTV.
Hi, I'm Michael Graves, and I'm on VUTV.
Hi, I'm Pastor Jim, and I'm on VUTV.
We're VUVOX, and we're on VUTV. I'm Logan Cohen, I'm on VUTV.
Hi, I'm Veronica Heckler, and I'm on VUTV.
Hey, I'm Kevin Deitch, and I'm on VUTV.
Welcome back into Valpo Sports Night for our final segment. Again, Mike and Andrew. Guys, will Jorge Posada get into the Hall of Fame after his illustrious career with the Yankees?
I don't think so. He had a solid career, a really good career, nice 17 years in the Bronx. And, you know, I guess it could change on what sort of criteria the voters are going to use for Hall of Fame now that the steroid era is kind of past or the guys are just sort of finishing up. But I don't think when you look at the overall numbers, they're quite good enough to get him into Cooperstown.
Okay.
I'm going to have to disagree. I do think Posada will get in. I think that just the stable of consistency he's been for so long with the Yankees, yeah, the numbers here and there, but I mean, then the World Series appearances and everything, just a world-class player, I think he gets in.
To me, you have to put the catchers in kind of a different field, too. You can't put them with the shortstops because obviously a shortstop's going to hit better. I mean, but either way, one of the best offensive catchers that has ever played.
I think you got to look at his record, too, as a catcher. You know, you look at starting pitcher's record, but a very good track record.
All right, guys, the big question, where does Peyton Manning play next season, or does he just retire flat out?
I'm going to stick with, I don't think he plays anywhere. I don't think it's worth the health risk, and I think somebody's got to tell him. And if anyone's going to tell him, it's going to be his father. But I don't see him playing anywhere.
See, I can't see him just giving it up. I know he was itching to get back on the sidelines all year, and if there really is a threat risk or health risk, then retirement is a decent chance. But I think if he can physically go out and play, I think he ends up in Arizona. People have talked about that before. Ken Wisenhunt did a really good job with Kurt Warner. They have Larry Fitzgerald. They have early Doucette. Kevin Cobb has been kind of a disappointment, so he can come in. They can give him all sorts of money. And even though the Niners have kind of established themselves defensively as the best team in the West, all of a sudden if Peyton Manning comes in, that sort of changes the balance of power. And you look, and that's a really winnable division.
Real quick, should the Colts let him go?
Yes.
Financially, I agree.
Financially, absolutely. And if they're convinced that everybody seems to be that Andrew Luck is the next guy to come, then do what they did with Manning, just bring him in and let him play right away. Throw him into the fire.
New GM, new head coach, new regime, new quarterback.
Yeah, that's going to be tough to act to follow. But there have been a lot of injuries across the NBA this season. Is that a product of the condensed schedule due to the NBA lockout?
You have to think so. I mean, a lot of teams playing 3 games in 4 nights. And I think as much as anything else, the training camps were shortened. And you don't know what guys were doing during the offseason. I know some of them were playing in those exhibitions and other things, but they weren't getting in game shape.
Right.
And they had less chance to get in game shape. They only had 2 exhibition games. And then all of a sudden, when you ask guys to play 3 games in 4 nights, the bodies start to wear down a little bit. And those nagging injuries become even more so because you have less time to heal, less time to get ready, and you just go back out there again. And it's been tough for guys like Dwayne Wade. You've seen Kobe Bryant be hurt, all sorts of injuries.
Look at the older teams. The Celtics, down. The Sixers, who are young, they're having a great start to the year. I think that it's got to make a fact.
Although it's kind of surprising, I assume you're going to talk about your Bulls here in a minute, but guys like Luol Deng and Derrick Rose, just kind of freak sort of injuries, but at the same time, that's kind of taken them away, and it's really a testament to the Bulls that they're 15-3 or whatever they are, without Rose playing every day, without Deng, who may now be out for the year, I guess.
Sure.
They were talking about whether
has been playing.
But yeah, injuries have been a big part of it because of the schedule, I think.
I think it's totally a product, and I think early on in the NFL season too, we saw a lot of nicked up injuries that usually you'd play through, you'd miss a game or something. But definitely with like Dwayne Wade missing time, he'd take a day or two, heal, and then go back and play. Derrick Rose, play, sit. I think that's a very smart approach, but definitely he's a lot of these injuries, missing time, definitely have to go with not getting the rest and the treatment and stuff, and also not being in shape because there was no training camp really.
It'll be very interesting to see if teams like the Spurs, the Celtics, kind of have to go from square one and by the trade deadline get rid of some of their veterans because, you know what, in this season, it's about youth.
Sure, and you wonder, too, if it's going to diminish at all the quality of the playoffs.
I hope not.
Because, when you play 66 games in 4.5 months or just 4.25 months, then all of a sudden, there won't be as much opportunity, I don't think, for guys to rest coming into the playoffs as you see over an 82-game season when it's spread out a little bit more. And if guys are still have nagging injuries, will that keep the quality of basketball that's played from being as good because you have some of your marquee superstars being on the bench?
All right, we're out of time. I want to thank Mike Targonski, WVUR General Manager, and Andrew Stem, WVUR Sports Broadcaster. I'm Drew Taylor. I want to thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on VU TV.